Hey Genderqueerchat, it's Matt.
And Ricky.
And this week's topic is, what are 3 things you've learned about yourself or your gender in recent times?
Yes. So, one of the things that I have learned recently, and this is recently as in within the last however many months we've been together, so what has it been, like 10 months or something?
10-ish months?
Yeah, 10-ish months or something like that. I have learned what it is like to be sort of somebody who is close to a genderqueer person, because for me it was always first person. Like I knew what it felt like to be genderqueer, but with being with Matt, I know what it feels like to sort of be so sort of super aware of other people's pronoun use and just general sort of things that what it's like to be close to somebody who is genderqueer and not quite fit into society. And this is as an example, because I'm not really saying this very well. As an example, I refer to you as they. A lot of people will question, who they are. Like, who they is, but it's, they'll say, because Matt has a child, and so I will say they're coming, and they assume that Matt and child are both coming, whereas it's just Matt this time. That kind of thing, like that sort of interaction, like it's confusing from a second person, or you can understand why people, like why it's harder for people who are close, like close friends and family and whoever. It's hard for them to try to be like to interact in a way that is gender neutral and still have sort of be understood by people who are not really aware of gender issues.
So I find exactly the same thing, and it's kind of interesting taking yourself, like obviously as genderqueer people individually, independently, we have a number of things about the way people treat us or interpret us or whatever, or the way society is, that bugs us or whatever. And as a result, we usually have kind of a list of demands, even if it's not things that's verbally, outwardly spoken to society, the way you want people to treat you, but you have a way that you determine within yourself is the way that you want it to be treated, the way you want it to be viewed or perceived or communicated with. And naturally we kind of get pissed off if we don't get those things in society. So I found that having someone so close to me who is also a genderqueer person and who identifies in a similar way and kind of expects similar type things, with the example of like gender neutral pronouns, that to actually take yourself out of that position where you're the one who is kind of having those demands and feeling that direct antagonism or whatever with society, or your expectations not being met, and then having that other person and realising that it's actually quite difficult to use language such as gender neutral pronouns like they and them as we use, and yeah, sort of experiencing it from the other side of the shoe and the other foot. So I found that for me personally, one of the things that has changed with me is that through using gender neutral pronouns when I'm talking about Ricky, or to Ricky, with other people, in the same way that Ricky's doing with me, it's really made me so much more aware of, one, how kind of alien it is to use that sort of language, but also on the flip side, once I've gotten into doing it and doing it religiously, that I've actually started to, for better or worse, gender neutralise everybody, and I find that them and they and gender neutral language kind of slips into my conversation when dealing with anyone, which I don't know if is a good thing, but that's definitely been a change in the way that, and it's more than just words. I found that the way that it's the way that I view people, and if you start to not use the words, the he's, the she's, the hims, the hers, well, whatever they are, then if you're not sort of using those things, reinforces the gendered perception and perspectives within that. That's kind of the power of language. So I'm finding that using gender neutral stuff, I'm kind of I found that I'm not gendering people as much or viewing people under that gendered lens, which is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's one change.
Yeah.
Also, I think for me, I guess, having the validation of somebody else who is also genderqueer, who understands my identity, and I know that they understand my identity because they share that identity in some way, shape or form. I found that that's kind of quite a good validation for me personally, and so my sort of interpretation of my own gender and my level or degree of comfortability with that is a lot more, I feel a lot more balanced or whatever. I'm not getting as annoyed with societal things and people's perceptions and attitudes as much as I used to do. But then when I'm thinking about Ricky...
Yeah. I was going to say, for me, it's sort of switched. It's like, whereas I used to get annoyed sort of on behalf of myself, now I feel because I have this validation, from Matt, which is constant and ongoing, 24/7, I don't feel as annoyed for myself, but I feel way more annoyed if, somebody, is referring to you as he, or I get not just annoyed, but confused, and then annoyed, and then angry.
Yeah.
It seems to be the kind of progression. Like, if
Same.
somebody says, oh, your husband, or oh, your boyfriend, and I'm like, the fuck, what are you talking about? And then I realize that they're talking about Matt, and I'm like, oh, it pisses me off, and then I get kind of upset a little bit on behalf of, on behalf of you, well, mostly sort of on behalf of you, because I want to be, you're the person I'm with, I want to protect you and keep you validated or whatever, but then also just on behalf of I don't know where I was going with this, just in general, it just is very obnoxious, because this is the relationship that we're in is a queer relationship, and sometimes I would like to feel that it's viewed as such, and when we're walking around out on the town or whatever, I don't think we're necessarily viewed as queer. I think, maybe other queer people would pick up on it, but, the general
really
public...
know, of course, I guess, but
yeah. And I find that a little bit... I realize that in that respect, I didn't really think I cared, but sometimes I feel like I don't know. It's like I'm proud of being queer, and I want to,
And for me, it's sort of similar but different. A lot of my focus with coming to terms with my genderqueer identity has been in regards to my interactions or potential interactions with people and where I fit in, and things like relationships and sexuality, of course, and the language surrounding those sort of things came into that. And I'm finding that in a relationship, that's taken the emphasis off me thinking about that sort of stuff as much as I used to, and that was a huge part of my gender frustration, or a huge part of what made me think about gender stuff 24/7 and be quite obsessive about it. And now I'm finding that because I feel a lot more secure and stable, and I guess in a relationship with somebody that understands me and views me as genderqueer, and I know that that's completely unwavering and awesome. That kind of stress surrounding my gender has kind of dissipated a little bit. It doesn't change the way I feel about myself, other than being a lot more secure and having that sort of validation. But I'm finding that without having that, that's a great chunk of my stress concerning my gender and my identity kind of removed. And I guess that's a good thing. But it's interesting. But then you also have that added focus. As Ricky's saying. So
yeah, but I think being in a relationship, a lot of that sort of internal stress for me has sort of dissipated as well, because there is a little bit of stress in, even if it's not sort of all the time, that feeling of, that there's nobody who really kind of understands you, and to know that the person, who I'm closest to, the person that I spend, the most time talking to and interacting with is you know, totally understanding it. Just kind of, you know, there's no focus on the gender at all within those interactions unless we're talking, you know, like this.
Yeah.
So it kind of takes that stress away, whereas, you know, even just the small things, interacting with other people, referring, you know, like, you know, somebody referring to me as she or somebody, whatever, is, it kind of takes you out of that interaction a little bit because it, you know, you get that little twinge of,
So maybe it's the effect of being in a relationship and having your identity, I guess, validated by somebody who thinks similar. Mm-hmm. It kind of takes away, for me, and it sounds like that's what you're saying a little bit as well, some of that kind of internal, personal need to deconstruct all this stuff and think about it and obsess about it quite as much from that perspective. But then there's more of a focus on the other person and as a couple and how you're then viewed, or your partner is viewed by other people. So that kind of takes it into a different dimension. Yeah. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
We finish each other's sentences.
Sandwich.
Is that all we have to say?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's Matt's birthday today.
Yeah. I had a lot of cheesecake, so I'm delirious on sugar. So if I seem unfocused, that's possibly why. But yeah. But interesting topic. It was really good to have Jay on the channel on Monday. Yes. So thanks, Jay. Brilliant video, and can't wait to hear more from you. And hopefully we'll be getting back on track and a lot more videos coming up, and you'll see us, one or both of us, on Thursdays, or Saturday as it turns out, Thursdays. And yeah, if you have any questions for us, anything you'd like the contributors to discuss on Genderqueerchat, just let us know. And thank you to those people who put in audition videos as well, and we love you.